Thank you all for joining us today. We are going to be going over how to apply to med school. So we have lots of information. For just some housekeeping, we will keep everyone on mute during the presentation so that I can make sure that I can cover every single thing. But the Q&A will be open. I have our senior peer advisor, Lauren, joining us today. She has been so helpful and she will be helping out managing the Q&A, so feel free to ask questions as we go through. But I will continue going through a lot of the information, so just check your chat responses just so that I can make sure I get all this information covered today. And then also the slides will be also emailed to you, so that'll be a great thing. And there's wonderful links here in the slides that you'll notice. And so that'll give you an opportunity to go back and cover some of the material, as well as we'll also record the video. I'll be recording the video so that you'll have that as well. So again, welcome to our pre-health summer workshop, Applying to Med School. And let me one sec. Alrighty, so just kind of covering what we're going to be going over in the agenda today. We're going to be applying, looking at the basics, the MCAS application, how to get started, important dates, and then sections of the application. So we will be dissecting that, as well as secondary essays and interviews and additional tips. One of the first questions we always ask is, are you ready to apply? And really what we mean by that is your application competitive? And so that consists of quite a few things, making sure that you have all the completed prerequisites in the course. And so you do, again, want to check with individual schools that you're applying to. So all the list of schools that you're applying to, checking their prerequisites, the GPA requirements are met, also your MCAT scores and the level of experience that's expected. And again, each school may have different specializations, so please check the list of schools and making sure that your application is complete and competitive. And so just looking at the sample timeline, as you can see, it's a journey, even preparing to apply for medical school. And so this is just a sample of someone that would be applying right after they graduate. And so looking at starting the preparations as early as year two. And so that can start with, preparing for your MCAT as early as spring, and then going through the summer, next year, fall, and then taking the MCAT. So really, we always recommend 9 months to a year for preparation, for being able to prepare for the application. I mean, preparing for the MCAT, and then starting to prepare for the application following that. So it's kind of fast and furious on that end, and even more so once you complete your application, you should already start going right into your secondary application essays and starting to prepare for that. Usually, once you send off your application and your essays, you have about a 2 week span before those applications come back. So we'll talk about that more. And then also going into the summer, the next fall, you'll go through your interviewing, which can go from fall to spring semester, then decision, then graduating, and then matriculating into med school that summer. So as you can see, it's about a year to apply between applying and then also getting accepted, and it is a journey. So we want to make sure that all the time that you are preparing for it, that you're actually checking off your timeline and you have everything completed. So the first thing we want to go into is the MCAS application. You'll hear me saying MCAS quite a bit. That is the American Medical College Application Service. And so that's going to be provided by the Association of American Medical Colleges, also known as AAMC. And then most of the medical schools will take what we call the Common App, but really what that is a primary application that you will fill out that will go off into your selected schools through MCAS. So this is kind of when you're in MCAS, this is where you are. So you're gonna complete the primary application, have your letters of recommendation sent, have your transcripts sent, and then also send your MCAT scores and pay your application fees as well. Once. And so, just kind of looking at how it works. This is the process. So applicants complete, submit your MCAS. You're going to do all this online, and then of course you're going to pay your fees. I'm going to just mention this briefly, but go into more detail later, and you will definitely see why. But there's fee assistant program benefits as well. And so before you submit your application, you do want to check that. And then also, when you go into the application process side, that's where the applicant is going to arrange all of their official transcripts to be sent. And then that will inform, the MCAS informs verification of all the coursework, calculate MCAS GPA. So they have their own separate GPA, which we'll cover. And then once that's all done, MCAS will distribute all the verified application to all the schools that you selected. And then also deliver all of the letters of recommendation to the designated medical schools as they're received. So you would have everything get sent to them and then they will deliver to the schools. So when we're talking about the schools, we have 155 allopathic med schools that we're speaking of, with the exception of Texas Public Schools and CUNY School of Medicine, Sophie Davis Biomedical Education Program. Every other school then be actually participating in MCAS. With that, we did talk about those fees. So you're looking at $175 processing fee. That includes the one school and only one school, and then $47 dollars for each additional school. So just kind of thinking about those numbers, the average person applies to anywhere between 20, about 17 to 20 schools. You can see how this can add up. You're looking at almost a grand right there. So that's why in the previous part I said we'll talk more about the fee assistance programs, and I will, because every little bit helps when you're trying to apply. It is not only a lengthy process, but a costly one too as well. So looking at the application date. So as you know, on May the 1st, the application opened. So earlier last month. And then students can start submitting their apps for 2025. So this is what it looked like on May the 27th. And you also want to have by June the 27th, all completed applications sent to your schools. August the 1st is early decision deadline. So just to speak a little bit to that, typically we don't recommend students to um, choose to do early decision, primarily because it's almost like you're putting your eggs all in one basket. Well, actually, you kind of are. So number one, if you're going to do that and you know you only want to apply for one school, that's when you might consider early decision. And then two, you want to make sure that you're highly, highly competitive, because again, you're putting all your eggs in that one basket. And what happens to all the other applications if you've chosen other schools is they actually they get held back, and so they're not going out until there's a decision made. And so what ends up happening is those applications usually are on pause till October, and that can really impact whether or not decisions are already made, or you might end up waitlisted or having to apply later. And so to me, that's a huge risk. So if you're thinking about early decision, you just want to make sure that it's the only school you want to apply for, or like just the main one, and then also whether or not your application is competitive enough. And the reason why I also say that is because most medical schools have rolling admissions, and it really truly is the early bird can get the worm on that. Schools start making decisions early on. So when you're looking at the application, in terms of the application deadline, September to December, that is that, but you do not want to be kind of on the latter end of applying. A lot of times that does get a lot of students waitlisted and needing to reapply again next term. So just keep in mind, apply early is the strongest recommendation. Also, you see this Eastern Standard Time. I just want to speak to that. If you're also applying and you're in Hawaii and you're looking at applying, you want to keep in mind it could be a 6 hour time zone difference. So just checking and making sure that your applications are also being submitted and you're thinking about the time zone as well. So now we're going to go into how we're going to get started. So one of the things that I really think is important, and if you've had any advising sessions with myself or any of the PAC advisors or peer advisors, we usually will go over this application timeline or send you also one in an email. But what's cool is that you're here. So when you get the slides, you can definitely go ahead and download that. And I do encourage you to do that as soon as possible, honestly. It really does help you get set up for success in preparing early. For example, you can open your MCAS account right now, create your AMC account as well. What's cool is that you can also look at some of the personal statements web pages and start looking at how you can start getting some brainstorming of ideas there. And this is just really good to like make sure you're completing it. You can put what you can check off what you have completed and just keep you on the right track as it comes to your desired timeline on when you're wanting to apply. So the first thing I had just mentioned is you can create your AMC account, and I highly recommend that you do that. And then once you create your AMC account, you can open up and there is a part where you can click applying to med school, and then it will say you know MCAS sign in, and then you can start looking and going around and seeing all the different tools and things that's available to you. But let's just pretend right now that you are applying to med school now. So we're going to sign in. And what's also nice, again, thank you, Lauren. There's links above here. So when you get the slide, you can click this and everything that I'm showing you, you can actually do live as well. So when you sign in, this is actually our director, Dr. Kiana Sharoma. She created one of these accounts. So this is what it would look like though. And if you notice, she has her AMC ID, all of her information, which we'll go down and break down all of these sections. One thing you also want to always look at is the application in all of its stages. You notice you can print and request all your transcripts here. You also want to check your document statuses to make sure, have they received them, have they not received them? Pretty much once you send your application up, you want to live in this space. And then also some really nice links, again, just to help you, like again, that AMC fee assistance program that we were just talking about, deadlines to stay, keep in the forefront of your mind to make sure that you are on track. So let's go into the sections of the application. So again, like I said, these are all the sections where you can see things are checked off at. So all your identifying information, we'll break that down. Schools attended, biographic information, coursework, work activities, learning letters of recommendation, medical school essays, all your standardized tests, and certification and submission. I know I went fast on that, but I'm about to go slow. So identifying your information. So this is the first part of this. Really, it's your basic information. And what's cool, when you fill this out, it's fairly user-friendly. If you've ever filled out like just like one of the Google Docs, it's just like that. I think one of the things that I just want to give you a huge tip on, which you'll see here, is it include all of your alternative names. If you are married and you had transcripts that reflected your maiden name, you want to make sure that's there. All alternative IDs, student ID numbers, if you went to different schools, you want to make sure you have that may be associated with you. This is just so important because if you don't have all this information or it's not consistent, this can also prolong your application. You may have to recertify. There can be delays, and you don't want to do that. So just making sure you have all of that information there. And then going back to the schools attended, so I do want to make sure that we're on the same page about all the colleges, every single post-secondary institution, community college, summer school, if you were in dual enrollment, in high school, yes, every school that you've taken any college classes for, you want to make sure that you include every and any post-secondary institution. And then, of course, you want to have all of your degrees, majors, minors, transcripts again from all institutions. And that's really important because we've seen also applications that get kicked back because or is delayed because they don't have all of the institutions. They only submitted one. And yes, for example, if you graduate, UH Manoa may show that you have credits from the community college. All that may show in your transcript, but they want to see if you've taken class at the community college, those individual transcripts. So don't assume just because one transcript lists everything that that's all you have. You need to make sure that all institutions are included. And then of course, if you're going to go for UH Manoa, you want to go to the records office, and I can show you what that looks like during the request process. So just going back, you after you entered in all the information on all the schools attended section, you're gonna create a transcript request form. And so you want to complete it, and then you're gonna print it out. Again, if you're doing this online, just make sure all your pop-ups, that make sure that they're all allowed. And so this is what that looks like. And again, once you get here, you're gonna actually make sure that you have the right school, right? So this shows up University of Hawaii Manoa. You'll have make sure that the date of attendance, just make sure you check that. That's all accurate. And then also your transcript ID. And then you can go ahead and then create your transcript request form here. And then once you do that, you'll have a PDF. It will appear, and then you can go to your institution. So like again, like I showed you, UH Manoa's Records and Office webpage, and then you will complete all your personal information section on there. And this is what that will look like once you get the form. And again, there's more links above for that too as well. And then once you go to, for example, UH Manoa Records, this is what it looks like. So you're going to select the following, and you're going to complete the remaining information for the recipient section. So that's all here. And again, making sure you enter your AMC account number and your transcript number, and then everything. Just make sure that you select the appropriate sections here. And then once you do that, you can then go into completing the process. One of the things that I wanted to highlight is making sure you choose the right delivering information, because it will give you an option whether to use snail mail or electronic. I highly recommend you use electronic. Again, you want to be able to track this, you want it in a timely manner, and it's just less room for error. So you can select the electronic. And then there's usually going to be some kind of a fee associated with this. So for UH Manoa, the copy was $5. And so then after that, you can go ahead and hit the, upload the file or add the file, and then hit the transcript request form in the PDF. And then after that, your transcript request will be processed. So you're going to complete any remainder of the request, and then you submit your payment of the $5 fee. One thing that I just want to make sure you do after you do that, just don't assume it's done. Always follow up and check again your statuses. So go into MCAS application and make sure that they've received it and that they processed your transcript. And this part, as soon as applications open, you can go ahead and start doing this. So that's why I said you can start creating your MCAS and then start submitting your transcripts and all of that as soon as possible, just so that they can have it and you don't have to wait and there's no delays. So going into the biographic information section, so this is going to be where you're going to just put in your contact information, your preferred and permanent address, any alternate contact people, childhood and family information, any military status if applicable. But really what I want to make sure that you do is just make sure that all the information is current. Um, Obviously, sometimes things happen. People move after they graduate. It's a lot of different things. So what's nice about this is that all this can be changed. You can when you post submission if needed, so you don't have to recertify. There's not going to be any delays with this as far as making these changes in this section. However, in other sections, not so much. But in the biographic section, it does allow for those changes. And then, oh, and one more thing, I guess let me go back into the biographic emails too. Please make sure, as you put your contact information, it is a current and a professional email. Because the worst thing I think that can happen is that you provide an email that you don't check often. And could you imagine if a secondary essay comes in and then you weren't able to check it? So please, please, please make sure you provide an email that you check often, and you will check it often, and that it also looks professional, because your email is also going to reflect, upon you. If you have graduated and you haven't been to UH and you still have a UH email, but you don't check it, please don't use that one. Use the one that you check most frequently. Okay, so going into the coursework, so you want to make sure, so MCAS has a classification guide. And they will offer opportunities to do drop downs on that. I recommend everyone entering everything manually. So you just want to make sure, as you're entering your coursework manually, you're putting the year, term, year in school, your course number, your name, transcripts grade, credit hours. If this was an AP credit, study abroad, foreign coursework, or military coursework, all of that would go into special course type. So just making sure of that. But here's an example, and we do give this tip. It's so much easier to have those transcripts. So if you can order your transcripts early to use as a reference, that would be really beneficial to you, because then you can make sure that you're typing in apples to apples, and what MCAS has is what you're going to be typing in. So for example, the Bio 402, the reason why you want to manually put it in is because you want them to know that that's not a biology class. That's principles of biochemistry. You also want to share the details of the year and term, the course number, again, and you can put the principles of biochemistry, the course classification, making sure you're using chemistry, and then, of course, your transcript grade, if you have it, credit hours, and then special course type if you need that. But what's really important, again, is to make sure that everything that's on the transcript is going to be exactly what you put into the system. And then the MCAS GPA. So this part, a lot of students get surprised about. So what happens is, when you are doing your application and it's submitted, your GPA is going to be verified with all your official transcripts. And that's going to include your cumulative GPA, your science and math, which we call the BCPM GPA, and all other GPAs. And so there's going to be a different GPA for your undergraduate, post-baccalaureate, and graduate coursework. And so what ends up happening is that MCAS GPA is usually different from your GPA of your institution, or what you might have seen on your transcripts. And when I say all other GPAs, what also you have to consider is that a lot of times you may have retaken a class, and on your transcripts of, official transcripts, maybe it just has the replaced grade, right, of that class, and that's your GPA. But the way MCAS calculates that GPA is it takes everything, right? And so even the class that you did a retake in, it's going to take that and combine that score, and then combine it with your new grade. And so that can look different than what's on your GPA. So sometimes it's not really uncommon sometimes for MCAS GPAs to be slightly lower than what your transcripts have. And so I just want to make sure that those expectations, you have that going in, so you know that. You can start calculating all that yourself when you start getting all your transcripts and you include every class that you've taken. Also, that BCPM GPA, just making sure that you calculate that separately because that is also going to that's going to be different also than just the overall GPA. So moving on to the work and activity section. So here, again, it's going to be kind of straightforward. You're going to type in your experience type, the name, but make sure too that they don't run together and that they are not so similar and that it's like, okay, it's the same thing over and over again. You do have a maximum of 15 entries. So also know that like if the experience is continuing, like maybe you continue on to a second year, there's going to be like 4 separate date ranges for repeated activities. So you don't necessarily have to take up another space for an entry if it's a continued experience. You want to make sure that you indicate the total number of hours that you spent completing each one of these work experiences. The other thing that I really want to talk about is this box right here, kind of your summary, your most meaningful experience. Um, really make sure that you're thinking about this. So what's nice is that if you click this link or when you get a chance, you can also start getting some ideas about what that personal development experience looks like. And also you'll find templates to like start logging experience, but I would start creating like a log, a diary, whether it's something that we provide for you or you have your own to start really capturing that so that you can spend some time in this space. So again, when you're thinking about this, it does include some of your basic information. Again, the experience name, the participation date, the total hours. The description is limited to 700 characters. So again, making sure that they understand what you do and it's clear. And then highlight what you've learned. It's really important to do that. And there's also an opportunity for that, again, that 3 most meaningful experience box where you have, 1,325 character description. Um, One thing to know though, as you're doing anything in MCAS and you see those boxes, please don't start writing and editing. Um, in that box, go ahead and create a separate Google Doc and do that. That way you don't accidentally like have that and send it. You want to make sure you keep that separate and that when you actually start typing into MCAS, it is going to be what you want to use for your submission because you can't edit it or do anything after you submit it. So just make sure that when you type in the box that is your final and you're good with that before you submit that. So, just kind of looking at this, I remember I talked about a template. So what's nice again, thank you, Lauren. There is a experience log right here you can download. And what's nice is that you can start looking and start picking out you may have a lot of experiences, but you want to really pick the most meaningful ones. So again, it's not about just checking the boxes and having a ton of experience. We do want you to prioritize quality over quantity. So please um, don't exaggerate at all about the experiences. Be honest, but also don't be too modest either. I meet with students all the time that have some really, really cool experiences. And I guess sometimes because you're in it all the time, or you have other peers that are doing things, people don't really feel like they can really share the things that are really cool and meaningful. But this is not the time to be modest on your application, which again, just don't exaggerate. One thing about this too, doesn't matter what order you put it in. So you can put it in any order you want. They will actually organize this. And then just the way to kind of approach this is to treat this like it's additional essay. Again, this is just one more way for them to get to know more about you, what you've learned, the things that you were able to get from the experience, and then also the things that you were actually able to give. And so you'll see also and hear us talk about what you were able to get from the experience and then what you're able to actually give and contribute. And then also remember show. don't tell. So going through this and being able to show all of these experiences, this is also a way they can kind of look at, they'll kind of match and see what you're actually saying in some of your essays and then going back to your experiences. So it should be a common thread. And your experience should also reflect your intentionality of how your approach to medicine. And then also the letters of recommendation. So you can upload up to 10 letters of recommendation. Um, JobSum, just FYI, only needs two. So you can check with some of the med schools and see how many letters of recommendation they actually want. Um, and then you just want to make sure you have all the contact information for all the letters. So this is an example of what the letter request actually looks like from MCAS, in case you wanted to know, so you can see this. And then just know the process to doing this is very, very similar to that of requesting for transcripts. You're gonna fill out a form just like you did in the transcripts for letter of request, and then you're going to give the letter request form and materials to your reference, and then they'll fill it out, and then it goes automatically to MCAS. So you won't see it, it does not go to you. And then there are some different types of letters that you will hear. So it's important to know what your preferred school, the type of letters that they're looking for, because it could vary. What we see a lot of common ones are the individual letter, and so that's just that you're going to ask an individual to write your letter of request. It's a single writer, and so um, you can go ahead and just find out your professor or someone that you work with or who you want to use for your individual letter and just approach them. There is sometimes packet of letter opportunities. We don't have this at UH Manoa, so if you're here, you don't have to worry about the packet of letters. But if you're coming from a different school and you're joining, you might want to ask if they offer this service, but really what it is that you can get all your individual letters, but have it all sent to the institution. And then what the institution will do, they will hold all your letters, and then they will actually distribute it to and send it to MCAS when you're ready to apply. So there's that. And then third is the committee letter. And so that is really kind of like almost like you'll get all your letters from the individual letters that you have, and then you would actually the committee letter is going to be done through our department. It's going to be our director, which is Dr. Kiana Sharoma. And so what she will request, and it's a process. So if you're going to need a committee letter and you see a school that requires that, it's really important to plan ahead and give her enough time to write this letter. So I mean, my recommendation is maybe even approach her as early as 3 months in advance. If I knew even earlier than that, I probably would, because would assume that she is helping with a lot of letters. And so you want to give her enough time. And then also you want to make sure that you've gathered up all of the things that you need. You need to send her your transcripts, just a lot of different things. We'll kind of go on a little bit further what that looks like, but it's a process. And so if the school doesn't ask for it, I wouldn't really necessarily worry about that. But if not, usually you'll see more of the individual letter. So just going into like the who's and who you should ask and how you should ask, that's really important. Again, I wouldn't underestimate this component. It's really important to make sure you're asking the right people, right? And so how do you ask? If you work with this person, or you see them day to day, just ask them in person. It'd be kind of strange to send them a formal email request if you are in contact with this person on a regular basis, right? So just ask them, but be courteous of their time and sensitive to that. And maybe ask that give them, people say like about a month to write it. So I would probably ask them first, maybe 2 months out, and then follow up with them throughout. That way, you give them enough time. And then also, you really need to make sure that the person that you're asking really knows you well. So ask yourself, do you feel you know me well enough to write a letter? I mean, or ask them that. And they should be honest about that. If you have a science teacher that you have, and it's 300 of you in a lecture hall and you don't have that rapport with them, may not be the best person to write your letter of recommendation. If you're early on in this process, you might want to start thinking about um, those relationships and start establishing, start thinking about who actually can write you a letter of recommendation, and then ask them, see how they feel. Do you feel that you can write me a strong or meaningful letter of recommendation? That's important. And while you're asking them that, if you're happen to be in person, pay attention to the demeanor because sometimes people are polite. But if they're like, yeah, and you don't feel confident that they're going to write a strong letter, I would not put them as a priority. Maybe they might be like my 10th letter, I don't know, but it wouldn't be something that I would feel comfortable with. So really just make sure that the people that you're going to ask are someone that you have confidence that can write you a strong letter of recommendation. And then also whom you should ask. You can also check like again with the individual schools, right? Teachers that were meaningful to you that you had some experience with that can science professors are usually looked upon as great letters of recommendation options, employers, but again, people who know you, so not just going after science professors if they don't know you, and also people that can write professionally and um, you know, eloquently, just to make sure that this is, again, represents you well. And then if you can find, have some diversity in your letters of recommendation. So maybe someone that you have addressed different areas of competencies for you would be good. But I also would defer back into checking with the institution too, because some have preferences, right? And some of them want to have a physician or an employer or science professors. So some will take combinations, but some have real strong preferences. So you need to know who they're looking for, and maybe that should help you kind of figuring out, determining who you want to ask. So prepping the author for your letters of recommendation, these are the things that you really do want to provide. Instructions, you want to give them the deadlines, you want to give them your CV or your resume. If you there's some guidances. So again, when you set up your MCAS account, you can look at the guidelines for letter writers, or you can just click this link, which is nice. And then you can see that. And then there's transcripts that you want to send, list of courses you took from them, grades that you received, any submitted work, and your personal statement. All of those things will be so helpful for them, so that gives them some material and things to think about as they're writing it. And then again, be courteous of their time. So you want to give them 1 month to write. So again, I would recommend maybe asking a month prior to that, following up with them, and then giving them and then checking in with them. Just give them a deadline 2 weeks before the letters due. That way you have some cushion. And then the first ask, again, you can ask in person. You don't want to just shove the packet and say, hey, can you do a letter for me? And then you have all of the stuff, like assuming that they will. So just ask them and get a feel for that. And then on the second time, or they say yes and you feel good, then you can deliver the packet. Just one more other thing. If you're going to again do a packet letter, you do want to make sure that all of these things are provided that Dr. Sharoma has, but just also allow yourself some more stitching time because it is a longer process. So again, asking early and then allowing, because again, when she writes that letter and you have a committee letter, that is a representation of UH Manoa and our pre-health center. And so she's going to be extremely thorough and what she writes, and a lot of times she may not have that that type of relationship with you to know all of these things. So she's going to require a lot of um, just kind of vetting and also going through all the other recommendations and seeing what other people have written. So just make sure you stitch in the right amount of time and that you also have all that information. But it is a process. So if you need that, meet with us early on so that we can help you prepare for that as well. And then the other thing, just like the transcripts, you're going to submit the letter of recommendation electronically. There are two options. Okay, so you can only do this electronically, but there are two options. There's the MCAS letter service and then Interfolio. I just recommend keeping everything through MCAS. And it's a pretty it just kind of leaves again less room for error, and then you can check it more and you can look at your statuses and everything on the on MCAS. So just looking down at the medical schools in your list. So I don't know if you guys have been thinking about this, but the average number of schools to which accepted applicants apply to is 17. So that's a lot of schools, right? And so um, all the schools' deadlines will be posted usually in early April. And this is where you can, add all your schools in the MCAS process. This is what that will look like. Again, if you want to learn more about researching schools website, yeah, well, you can always go to our webpage and we do have a lot of information. A lot of what we get from the AMC2 on our PAC webpage. And again, when you get the slides, you can just click here too as well. So when you're thinking about that too, we want to start thinking about the essays. And so there's going to be a prompt, and you want to make sure this is where you talk about your why you want to go to medical school, and you have 5,300 characters. And so when we see this prompt, it's a little deceitful because it looks like, oh, okay, why do I want to go to medical school? Um, but and you just want to fill it in the box. Don't. One, do not create the essay in the MCAS box. And you want to type, once you want to put that in a Google Doc, just like I said before, on the work experience, and then later on you can type directly into the MCAS. And then just kind of going back into considering like what you want to write, just digging into your why, your reasons for going. If you had any things that challenged you or influenced you, you really want to, this is where you want to lay it on the line and share that. Any significant changes in your academic record, this is an opportunity to discuss that as well. Um, that this is the part where they want to know like your unique experience and your true why. And you don't want this to sound generic. You want to make sure that it's clear too as well. It's not so story-like, right? That it doesn't make sense. So one thing that we typically recommend is that you have quite a few different sets of eyes on it. So this is the box I was telling you about. Um, yeah, looks like you can just write in here and that's it. And I think this is one of the areas that we see some missed opportunity. So you can have a great GPA, a great MCAT, all of those things, but the personal essay is it's important. And this could be a make or breaker. So give yourself enough time and really spend time in this space, and make sure you also leverage some feedback as well. We'll talk about that um, kind of going forward. So the other part about this is standardized test, right? Your MCAT. So um, that's going to be scored automatically. You just want to make sure you always double check it though. Make sure your scores are accurate. Make sure you indicate if you're taking a future test. There is going to be introduction to an MCAT workshop. And so that's coming up in the fall. So just make sure that just check on if you're not subscribed to our newsletters, please do. And you can see all the workshops. We also have some coming in the summer too as well. So as you know, you're here, but just make sure you stay up to date on that. And then just looking at kind of a timeline and the different MCAT schedules, I think the biggest thing that I can say is number one, February, no MCAT. There will not be any tests going on for that month. And then these are different MCAT dates to stay abreast of. You can apply as early as January, which is nice because if you feel like you may need to study some more and retake it, that gives you that opportunity to do so. And then the other thing is just apply early. I just can't stress that enough. In the state of Hawaii, we only have one testing center. And so applying early is huge. If you don't, you can miss that opportunity to take it here. And if there is a deadline that you need to make, you may have to leave off island to take the test. So really truly making sure that you're set up and you schedule and apply early so that you can get a spot to be able to take the MCAT. Then, as you're looking at, the application and you're completing it and certifying it, this is where you're going to go ahead and pay all your fees. And then again, if you make any changes after the submission, you're going to have to recertify and resubmit the application. That is so time consuming. So please, please, please check everything before clicking submit because you're gonna then have to recertify or resubmit. And that process begins once your application and official transcripts are received. So one of the things, again, you need to notify MCAS if schools have not received your material within 4 to 6 weeks after processing is completed. So again, stay on top of this. We looked at this a little bit ago, but just kind of go back and recap about how MCAS actually works. Again, you're going to submit the application, and that's going to be done online. You're going to pay your fees. You will have the opportunity then to use fee assistant program benefits, and then your application will be processed. And so the applicant arranges for all your official transcripts to be sent to MCAS, and then MCAS will inform the verification of all your coursework, calculate those MCAS GPAs, and then the application will be distributed, verified, and then designated to the medical schools that you chose. And then also the MCAS will also deliver all the letters of recommendation to the designated medical schools as well as they arrive. Going back to post-submission changes. So if you have to change any alternate IDs, names, birth information, letters of evaluation or recommendations, MCAT scores, medical schools, again, your application will be recertified. With every approved change, there's going to be another recertification, with the exception of the letters of recommendation. Those are the only ones. You can add and do those after submission, but everything else, if you make one change, recertifying. If you have to go back and do it again, so just again, I can't stress enough making sure that you have everything good to go and that you've checked it not once, not twice, not 3 times, but just making sure everything is great before you hit that submission button because otherwise you will have to recertify. So that's again when that application checklist comes in handy. So right now we're at the phase where we have completed the primary application. Ooh, that was a lot, right? Now we get to go into the next phase, which is the secondary essay. And yeah, and then we'll go to interviews. So after the submission of your application, again, check it frequently. Just make sure you're staying up to date on that. Then, you've completed your step one. So just be on the lookout now for those secondary applications. They'll be emailed to you. That's why I said make sure you have an email that you check. They come back fast and furious. Just make sure. Okay. And so just looking at this timeline now. So now this is where we are in our process. You've been studying and now we're going, we've taken the MCAT, we've prepared the application. So now we are in the secondary application and essay phase. So Looking at that. So, yes, there's going to be more fees. So, again, that's why that savings earlier helps. So, each medical school can occur additional cost per school, and that can range anywhere between $35 to $150 per school. And then these are usually offered early fall. So when you do the secondary, it may include additional information, school-specific essays and prompts, which they usually do, and then letters of recommendation. My biggest tip to you is start writing this as soon as you submit your primary application. You may go to the school's website, find out if they already have, or look and see on the AMC website if schools show if they have any essay or prompts for that. Many schools don't change them, and if they do, then I mean, you can just kind of get some ideas, but you want to make sure that you start this process as soon as possible because usually after the application is submitted, you have about 2 weeks and they can come back fast and furious. And could you imagine applying for 20 schools, right? And then you have 2 weeks to write these secondary essays. And in some cases, some of the prompts, like one school was like 12 prompts. So it's a lot to do in 2 weeks. So you want to plan accordingly. So as soon as you finish that, go ahead and start looking at the secondary. Now, when these applications, when you get the secondaries, it really does depend on the school. There's going to be some schools that screen. So when they screen it before they send you the secondary application, they're going to check your GPA, the MCAT cutoffs, the residency requirements. So receiving a secondary application from these two particular schools means great, you passed the first round, and that's really something to be excited about. Um, but most schools don't do screening. So all what the way they do it is like all applicants receive a secondary application. So it doesn't give like an indication of applicant screening. It's just, yeah, you've applied and now you need to go ahead and start working on your secondary application. So it'd be good to know if the school screens or not. That way you know whether or not you've made it to a first round in some cases. But again, most schools don't. So just to give you the heads up on that. And we do have on our website again, PAC secondary application webpage. So definitely look at that as well. It's a lot of helpful information. And then if the MCAT is not enough, there's also the AAMC preview exam. It's a new exam, fairly new, and it's in addition to the application process. And really what that exam is like is it assesses applicants' understanding of like effective pre-professional behavior. So if you want to kind of dig into more about that, go ahead and visit the AMC core competencies. Just one thing to note, it's not a content-based exam. There are some practice problems and scenarios on the AMC website. And so again, it's fairly new. And if you want to just get an idea, you can look at, again, go to the website and look at that. Click this link. One thing to note is not all schools require it, again, because it is fairly new, but Jobsom does. So if Jobsom is one of the schools you want to, you might want to get some exposure to the preview exam as well. But we do have a list of all the participating schools underneath here, and so you can look at that too as well. And the interviewing part, right? This is we're getting to the last part of this process is the interviewing. And so again, you can't underestimate preparing for this. Just like all the essays that you have written and you're going to get second set of eyes, whether it's your teachers or physicians or advisors such as us, academic advisors. Please, please, please do the same as far as your interview prep. You want to make sure that you're preparing for the interview, so you most certainly can schedule an appointment with us. We will help with that. But really, this just gives admission committees a more personalized view of applicants, and all medical schools screen applicants prior to sending invitations for interviews. So now you know that if you made it to this round, congratulations. They have screened you and you are someone they're strongly considering. So when we're thinking about those interviews, the format can be a little bit different. Every school has their own way of doing it. Some schools will offer a combination if there's more than one interview. So just thinking about that and what that means. So there's a traditional one-on-one interview. There's panel interviews, there's group interviews, there's multiple mini interviews called MMIs. So understanding what they all mean. So if you're doing, we already know what the traditional one-on-one, but if you're doing a panel, what you'll probably experience is that you would have maybe an instructor, some instructors, maybe a board that would consist of admissions program directors, maybe a physician. Like it can be a combination. It could be a small, maybe two people, it could be a group, but it's going to have different people asking questions and they will ask you the questions, so it wouldn't just be a traditional one-on-one. If you're looking at a group, maybe you might have an interview with other candidates and then questions might just be asked in a group setting. Some schools will do that. And then there's the multiple mini interview, the MMI, and the best way to describe that is like speed dating. I don't know if anybody's ever tried that, but really what you do is you will actually, like if it's in person, they'll have different breakout rooms, and so you can go and to one room you'll interview, and then you would actually go and walk into another room, and they'll like have the question posted on the door, and then when you walk into the room, you'll be ready to answer that question. If you're doing it virtually, then you would have probably a second to see the question, and then you would then meet with that person, then go into another breakout room. So same concept, maybe it's just virtual breakout rooms versus rotating in different rooms, but you'll have different people that you'd interview with. It's kind of fun. But it is, it's a different style, and we're starting to see more institutions doing the MMIs as well. So, I just talked about earlier about the opportunities to get some mock interviewing done. I mean, the key is just as much practice as you can. But again, you have us as well, the Pre-Health Career Center, so PAC, but we also have, I mean, we PAC will do it, but then we also have the Pre-Health Career Corps, Manoa Career Center, so at least three resources here on campus that you can use. And then there's physicians that you may work with or shadow that might be a good um, have someone to, might be a good place to start too as well. And then any leverage like your relationships. If you have any peers, like any current students, graduates and medical graduates, that would be great. And so you can do that. I can help with that as well as our director, Dr. Kiana, and so you'll see her email as well. So either one, schedule an appointment with us, and then we would be happy to help you prep for your mock interviews. And it's not a one and done. If you want to come back and do it again more than one time, we're okay with that too as well. All right, so congratulations. Now you finished applying to medical school. But I do want to go back because we talked about like I kept mentioning fee assistance and all of that. I do want to touch the fee assistance program. It is really, really a great resource. We recommend everyone apply for it if applicable. So just to give you an idea of when the applications, if you apply for it, is approved, it's usually as January the 1st to December the 31st. And then do know though that benefits do expire. So just look at the year of when you're going to apply for it and know that it has an expiration date. And then just FYI too, more information at the top of the link for the fee assistance program. But let's look at what it covers. All right, so all these things that you can save. Um, so I don't know, you want to start practicing for the MCAT. I get so many times people telling me, "Oh, which MCAT prep material should I get? What should I buy?" And all those things. And I'm always like, "Oh my gosh, there's so many things out there and it's so expensive." Usually you can spend about $286 of, MCAT prep material. They actually will give you like official prep online only bundles, right? And you can save that for like that. And then also, there's like other tools you get. What's on the MCAT, interactive tools, MCAT essentials. Again, even just the registration fee, right? To register for the MCAT, that can range, and so you're talking about $330 and you can actually get that fee reduced to 135. So registration fee, not what it ranges to, it's 335 and you can actually get it reduced to 135. And then also you get the complimentary tier access to the MSAR website. Um, $36 value. It may not sound a whole lot, but let me tell you, it's so great to have. You can look at all the schools, you can rank all your schools. There's so much that you get by having the MSAR. So it's just nice to have. And you have 2 whole years of access to that. And then also, what I think is the most biggest bang for your buck on here is also the waiver that you get to waive all AMCAS fees. So the one application and up to 20 med schools. So you're talking about almost a grand, right, of savings. That's huge. So my thought is apply, see, what's available to you. And the worst is you don't get it, but the best is that you do and you won't know unless you actually apply. And so these are different resources for there. So what you need to apply, all of the application guides, fee assistant program facts. Again, there's links in here. You can go through all of that. And then if you go through that and you have questions, this is the information you can reach out to AMC and get more information as well. But it's a great, great program. And there's also even another link here. Thank you, Lauren. You have so many nice links in here to share. And then speaking of all the useful information and resources, so we do have more links again for the MCAS application, the application guide, facts, fee assistant program, information as far as the actual MCAT test, and then of course links to our pre-health advising. So if you don't want to go through each one of these individual slides, you can always scroll to right here for the useful resources and then get a lot of that information too as well. I do want to just spend just a little bit of time on osteopathic medicine because I know we're just a little bit over, so I just want to make sure I touch base because I do have students that ask about the similarities between osteopathic versus allopathic. Some good things is that the timeline is the same. So can you apply to both osteopathic and allopathic medicine? Absolutely. So the timeline is the same. You're going to need the same information. So that's great. But the difference is that you're not going to use MCAS. So all those things I just went over MCAS is going to be different. You're going to use ACAMIS instead of MCAS. But the good news is that it's similar in nature. And when you, all the information that you've gathered for MCAS, it's going to be great because you're going to need that for ACAMIS as well. They only take up to 4 letters of recommendation compared to the 10 that MCAS takes. And then also, one additional requirement is that they do require a letter of recommendation from a doctor of osteopathic medicine. So if you're thinking that you want to apply for a DO school, I think it's important to go ahead and start trying to make sure that you shadow a DO and that you have some exposure to that because you'll need a letter of rec from an osteopathic doctor if you're going to apply on that. And then you can apply both in the same cycle. There's additional fees. So that fee assistance won't come for this because that's strictly for MCAS. So you're looking at $195 application fee and then 40 additional dollars for each additional program that you apply for. Last but not least, all the tips. Get started now. Go ahead and create your MCAS, your AMC account, all those things you can do now. Download the templates. There's just so many things that you can do. This right here, be your best friend. Go ahead and start getting that applications checklist. Again, start creating your specific professional email account. Make sure you're checking it often. You can start contacting MCAS and AMC for any additional questions that's not answered in their FAQ. Again, if you ever have to call a school that you're interested in, it's important that you remain professional. Even if you get frustrated or irritated, this process is long, it's emotional, it's a journey. You can vent to us, but don't vent to anybody at the actual admissions or in the school because they actually keep record of everything. and you just want to always remain respectful, professional, and then also you can always keep us in a loop of what's going on. And then I'm gonna go ahead and open it up to any additional questions. I know that we're over. If you have time and you want to ask any questions, you can. Otherwise, feel free to also schedule an appointment. We're available to meet all during the summer pretty much. And so just know that we're here to help. And thank you so much for joining this workshop. So let me see if there's anything.
And if anyone's going to leave, I just put into the chat a workshop evaluation Google form. So if you liked our workshop, you want to see more like these, or if there's any way you can see that we can improve, please go ahead and fill that out. That's super duper important to us, and we'd really appreciate any feedback that you guys have.
Yes, thank you. And then the other thing too, just making sure, is there a new message? I just want to make sure I don't miss it. Oh, okay, great. I don't see any new questions, but I just wanted to make sure too, you guys, we have a lot more workshops, right? And so you can also go to this QR code and sign up for any additional workshops. The summer is unique in that we have the opportunity to do some workshops that we don't typically have in the fall. And a lot of these workshops were inspired by advisee appointments that we've had a lot of questions, a lot of how to get more summer experience, how to leverage that. And so this is a great opportunity to also know what you have available in those opportunities. So feel free to register for any of those that you have interest in as well. And oh, I love that. Wait a minute, Lauren, you have that little, also, if you missed anything, you can check our presentation library right here. I didn't want to miss her. And then also we are on social media, so feel free to join our Instagram or our Facebook and stay up to date on everything that we're doing as well. Just stay connected. It's so great to get into your pre-health community and start finding out how you can get involved in all the latest and greatest opportunities. And once again, just thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us and taking in all this information. I know it was a lot, but anything that you have, any other questions, if you want to meet one-on-one, feel free to definitely schedule with us. We are here to help. Hope you enjoyed and this was informative and have a great rest of your day.